position, played for the Padres through AAA, went on to extremely successful business career, and is in every Hall of Fame that exists that I'm aware of. He's the most modest, principled guy you'll know. He's just a wonderful guy and a lifelong friend. I happen to get have a few RBIs during the course of our careers, and it had nothing to do with me being all that adept at hitting. It was that every time I got on the plate, every time I came up to bat, Jerry preceded me, of course. I was fourth, he was third. Anyway, he was either on second or third base, and the only time he wasn't on second or third was when they intentionally walked him, and he only was at first base. I mean, Jerry could hit the ball better than anybody that I ever saw in my life. Those of us that saw him in high school know that he was the best hitter in the game. Well, I had the opportunity to see him play for Loyola University, where he's an All-American, and he's part of that Hall of Fame. He hit the ball just as well there, if not better. Saw him at single A level, saw him at the double A level, continued to hit the ball better than anybody else on the field. I didn't see him in triple A, but I'm sure he said it was there. So, modest guy, but tremendous athlete. Thank you, Jerry. I was telling a friend of mine, we live in Eugene, Oregon. We happen to have some football tickets for some teams up that way. And I told him I was going to be out of town for this particular evening. It happens to be Cal was at Oregon State where our children live. And he asked me why. Because he knows I'm pretty much addicted to going to local athletic events. Anyway, I said, well, I'm going to an event in my high school in Ventura, California. And he said, well, what's that? I said, well, it's kind of a personal thing. He said, no, really, what's going on? I said, well, I happen to be invited to a Hall of Fame induction. And he said, well, congratulations. Well, he says, when did you graduate? I said, well, 40 years ago. He said, well, has there been anybody else in your class? And I said, well, yeah, the guys that hit the home runs, pitched the winning championships, that run the 17-yard victories, and got the ink, got the headlines. And he says, well, so what you're saying is you got the miscongeniality. And I thought about that, and at first I was kind of step back, and I said, you know what? That's pretty accurate. Because I wasn't the star, but I was a teammate that contributed to whatever season was in, whatever the calendar said, that was my favorite sport. We just went from season to season. Started over here at Assumption from 1st through 8, and then across the parking lot. There's a number of people in this room that I have known for 50 plus years. So we were just a bunch of young guys that happened to be in the right place at the right time, and then, gosh, we had the best families on the planet. Our parents were totally supportive of us. Wonderful teammates, great teachers, administrators, and coaches that you're going to hear a lot about here in a little bit, who were just legends, just fabulous people. And I want to talk specifically about the three coaches, but prior to that I want to say one thing. My wife Kelly is here, and I appreciate her being here. Kelly's heard all the stories and met a number of us of the Seraph community, and I embellish a little bit on what we did and certainly what I did. And she said she tried to go to the Coachella game back in the day, but she happened to be in 2nd grade at St. Bernard's in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio. So she had First Communion that weekend. She was in 4th grade when we won the baseball championship, and she said she followed it on her iPhone. So anyway, she's heard all this secondhand, and I appreciate her patience, and she's here tonight. So should it come up in your discussions with her, did Mark really hit that walk-off grand slam in CIF finals, or did he throw those 4 touchdown passes? Just kind of roll with it. All right. Thank you to the administration of St. Bonaventure High School. You've continued the legacy. We were a small part of the foundation, and clearly watching those kids, watching those families, watching those coaches last night, it's at a whole different level. But congratulations to to you guys for continuing what we played a small role in starting years ago. The three coaches, again, you'll hear a lot more about, but Tom Luna was my Spanish teacher. Tom Luna was a legend in Ventura County. He was a running back that I'd heard of when I was a little guy, and when I met him, I was kind of starstruck, and then, you know, what he did on the athletic field was, you'll hear more about. But he was also my Spanish teacher. I was an okay student, had Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and fast forward, during the summer, I interviewed for a job with Lyman Air Corporation. I was in the citrus harvesting business. And I interviewed with them, and they asked me, do you speak Spanish? And I said, in all honesty, sir, I don't, but I've had 2 years of Spanish in high school. And so, well, I'll ask you a couple questions. He says, you know what trabajo means? I said, well, yeah, to work. He says, do you know what cajas means? I said, yeah, boxes. He says, you're hired. And I picked lemons for 2 years and oranges for a year. And I worked, I mean, I was trying to make money to buy a surfboard or a motorcycle. And I would work alongside people that were feeding their family. And the little bit of Spanish I knew kind of ingratiated me with my colleagues, and that experience stayed with me my whole life. I mean, that was my appreciation for what real hard work is all about. But anyway, Coach Luna, thank you so much for getting me launched in my career. And secondarily, thank you for inviting your younger brother to join us at St. Bonaventure High School. Tony could have suited up last night and contributed. He remains an athlete of tremendous regard. Okay, Coach Little. Coach Little, hadn't seen Coach Little for 38 years prior to our CIF football reunion in 2008. And we reconnected as if it had been last week. He was my line coach. I played offensive, defensive line. He was my baseball coach. And he was my biology teacher. And again, you're going to hear more about their coaching expertise later. But in biology, I learned about the left ventricle, the right ventricle, and the aorta, and ribonucleic acid, the DNA code. But it got to the term when we got into human reproduction. And all of a sudden that kind of sparked my interest. And my dear wife Kelly has produced 3 specimen children, so Bill. Secondarily, when the seasons were over, we're post-high school, we would be at the pier, body surfing. Jeff Tauber and some of us, you know Jeff. Anyway, we call Coach. Hey, the swell's up, can you come down and join us? And he would. And Bill Little was the best body surfer I'd ever known at that point in my life, maybe since then. I'm not sure, Coach, how you developed those skills. It must have been Orange County upbringing, but among his many attributes, the heck of bodies. Just really good. So, thank you for everything, Coach. Dave Curry. That's the first time I've ever used Dave instead of Coach. And I know the field is right up here in terms of bear calls happen. So. Coach he had a bunch of young kids under his wing. This was in the late 60s. We had a war going on in Southeast Asia. We had rapid social change, music, drugs, and everything. Certainly hairstyles. We wore white shirts and ties to class every day. We had crew cut, we had Kevin Kelly haircuts. To be able to play sports, we had to represent St. Bonaventure. Yes sir, no sir, sprinted in and out of the huddle, wore our hats, helmets, from the locker room to the locker room. Never took the helmet off unless you were wounded or something. Sculpt. But this gentleman was the age of my oldest son. My oldest son is 25, and he created a team out of kids who could have had some tremendous distractions at that point in their development, and did it magically. And fast forward, we've been around this weekend together. We had some quality time last night after the game, and every one of those brothers of mine at Seraph are professionals and successful family members, or society contributors and good guys. And Dave Curry Coach Curry was the foundation of that. And there's one last thing I want to say about the coach, and I'll pass the baton. In June, this past June, my older brother passed away. Suddenly, just one of those things happened. Jim Zivich, who's here, in discussion with Billy Stope, I told Billy about it. I said, hey, here's what's happening. Billy used to be a neighbor of ours, and he knew my older brother. And Jim and Bill passed the word to the troops, the email tree, and boy, I got all kind of beautiful responses. But the first one I got, I mean, within an hour of this having gone out, was from Coach Curry. And I'm thinking, Coach Curry's had thousands of kids. Kids is maybe the wrong word. Students, athletes, etc., under his jurisdiction over those years. And I'm just one of them from 40 years ago. And the first email I got back was a very heartfelt, very personalized letter, email. And I saved that and continue to say that, and I sincerely appreciate it. So, that's all I got. Thanks.